Hello, it's Dr. Edward, the healing vet, and I'm here for regular live sessions where I talk all about how to help your animals and often yourself with, health problems. I'm a holistic veterinarian, and I've got a real passion for helping you give your pets the best life possible. So today I want to talk about anxiety, and particularly curing anxiety in dogs, and maybe have a little bit of a think about how realistic is that we can hope to be curing anxiety. Now, it's a complex issue, anxiety. There's quite a lot of things to consider, and I'm going to talk about a fair bit of this. I just came back last week from attending a veterinary conference in Darwin, and there was a behaviour stream at this conference. And because helping animals with behaviour issues is one of my passions in my practice as a vet, I spent a lot of time in the behaviour stream, and there were a heap of amazing speakers, professors, certified veterinary behaviour specialists, and several other vets who are in the middle of doing their residencies to become certified specialists. So what is anxiety? Anxiety is basically a fear of something that might happen, something that the animal that's anxious perceives to be dangerous or life-threatening, even if it's not dangerous at all. I mean, you get some dogs that absolutely lose the plot and go into extreme panic and distress at the sound of sausages sizzling on the barbecue. So it's important to understand that anxiety in our animals is profoundly painful for them, mentally painful, emotionally painful, even physically painful. So if your animals have any kind of anxiety issues, please do something to help them with it. And if your animals are just beginning to show little bits of signs of anxiety, act early, because the sooner you act, the more you can help these anxious dogs. Now, I learned a lot at this conference. And can anxiety in dogs be cured? Well, I believe the answer is a little bit of yes and a little bit of no. Now, after being at this conference and listening to all these amazing world-leading experts, I've come back with an even deeper appreciation of just how complex a beast anxiety in animals and pets is. So it's really rare, for instance, for there to be only one kind of anxiety condition or syndrome going on in any animal that is suffering with anxiety. And I'd just like to say hello to everyone who's joined us on the live. Please say hi. Love to know where you're checking in from. Likewise, if you're watching on the replay, if you didn't catch us live, please check in, say hi, follow the channels, like the Facebook page, follow me on YouTube. But I would really particularly love to hear where you're from and what animals you have. Hi, Carrie Ann, and Natala from Prague, Patty, and Meryl from Adelaide. Patty's from Iowa. So we've got a few people there chiming in, which is totally awesome. Now, I'm going to go back to talking about anxiety. That I said hello to everyone. It's always exciting to say hello to everyone from all around the world. Now, so often animals have what are called comorbid anxiety conditions. This means they have several different anxiety issues active, not just one. So you might get a dog that has got separation anxiety and noise sensitivities and potentially reactivity to tall men who are wearing a hoodie. It can get quite complicated. In addition to the fact that you have often multiple sorts of anxiety conditions, multiple things that are causing the anxiety, triggering the anxiety in your dog, there's often underlying problems that can be either causing the anxiety or making existing or subclinical anxiety issues worse or become active. Undiagnosed pain is a huge factor here. But there are also some metabolic diseases and other conditions that can be a problem. And if you're unaware of underlying issues, then treatment for anxiety might not work well or might not work at all. So here's a really big take home. If you've got an anxious animal and you want to help them, they need to go to a good vet and have a thorough workup, which would include a physical exam. You might want to come to me and learn how to find soft tissue pain in the body, because vets, unfortunately, are not so good at finding that. You might want to go on a pain treatment trial to see if you get a change in behaviours when there's pain relief present. And you really need to do a blood test to check for other medical hormonal issues that might be a factor, contributing factors in causing these behaviours. Anxiety is kind of complex to treat. It's kind of simple in that we know what we need to do to treat anxiety, but there are different options in the different steps of what we do. And it nearly always takes at least some experimentation with different interventions and different medicines before you hit on the best combination for your anxious dog or any other kind of anxious animal. Every case of anxiety is unique, and you need to be flexible and adaptable and tailor the treatment plan to your animal's needs. And another thing to be aware of with anxious animals is it usually takes quite some time to help our anxious animals. It's rare to have really profound improvements in anxiety in less than 3 to 6 months. And, 1 to 2 years is probably a realistic time span if you've got an animal with severe anxiety to be thinking about the journey ahead. It takes time for the animals to respond to treatment, and I'm going to talk about the things you need to do in a treatment plan later in this little talk. But if you know this, you're not going to get really frustrated and disappointed when you've been to the vet and 2 weeks later, things don't seem to have changed much. So it's important to know that. Now, some animals will get to a lot better place, but still need some degree of ongoing treatment and care to give them the best possible quality of life and to minimize the mostly healed anxiety issues that animal have. But it's very rare too that you won't see significant improvement in anxious animals if you do the right things. Now, in a moment, I'm just going to talk about exactly what you need to do, but I'm just going to pop back into the chat because lots of people have been talking. Helene says, yes, I was telling you a few weeks ago about our 1.5-year-old George Jr. We brought him. George comes from the same family. We feel he was emotionally abused. He's a bit scared of me still after 6 months with us. Yes, that can happen. Lots of people checking in from Cairns, Gold Coast, Canada. And who's someone, Mesa, who's got an 8-month-old Cavalier puppy who seems to be very anxious. CBD oil will help, but it's only one part of what will help. You need to, especially with puppies, the sooner you go to a vet and some good trainers and so on and so forth, the better. Yes, we've had someone there who dog is reactive to people with dark skin. And we've got someone who's got a dog extremely scared by thunders and fireworks. So, apparently up to about 70% of dogs display anxiety symptoms. It's a very common problem in this whole thing. And often humans don't actually recognize how anxious their dogs are either. So, but let's talk about what you need to do. I'm just going to skim through what you need to do. Now, at the start of September, I'm going to be hosting a whole free summit with 20 world-leading experts, veterinarians, holistic veterinarians, alternative and complementary therapists, and world-leading dog trainers, a whole lot of people, where we're going to go into a whole lot of things you can do to help your anxious dog. But I'm going to give you a high-level look at today at what you need to do. First thing you need to do is have a clear assessment of what's going on. Now, your vet can help you with that. You want to get very precise around what the problems are, as in the symptoms, like perhaps destructive behavior, messing in the house, reactivity, aggression. Then your vet will be able to make a diagnosis. Nobody but vets are allowed to make diagnoses legally. So this is what anxiety conditions or syndromes. So you might have separation anxiety syndrome, noise sensitivity, reactivity, and perhaps, panic at the vet, something like that. And then, with the vet, you can talk about a prognosis, some idea of, what sort of time frame and how well this animal might respond to treatment. Now, you are going to want to work with other people as well. You want to have good trainers. Positive reinforcement trainers only should never, ever, ever use punishment with anxious dogs. It makes it worse. It does not help. So check chains and shouting and yelling, and especially things like shock collars, don't go there with your anxious dog. It will not fix the problem. Might seem to fix the problem, but you'll actually harm your dog more. Then the second step is to create and implement an anxiety treatment plan for your animal. And there's 4 parts to that need to be part of every treatment plan for an anxious animal. Part 1 is environmental modification, and this essentially involves reducing the anxious animal's exposure to triggers or fear-inducing stimuli as much as is possible. The second part of any treatment plan is behavior modification, which classically involves using positive reinforcement training to carefully and slowly desensitize and counter condition the anxious animal. Now, I use therapeutic touch. I've developed a whole modality of a profoundly healing body work, which is whole energy body balance method. And there are some skills out of that there's particular kinds of touch that cause a deep, beautiful body level relaxation in the dogs. And I've had some really amazing successes with helping anxious dogs through training them with touch rather than with rewards to teach their whole body system how to relax and how to regulate into healthy relaxation. If you're interested in learning more about that, send me an email. Part 3 is medication. And this involves using medications, both prescription and complementary or alternative medications like CBD, herbal medications, various other things to change the animal's brain chemistry and help calm them. Now, a lot of people, when I suggest prescription medications, they go, I don't want to give my dogs that poison. But I have to be really honest with you here. I'm going to ask you to be open-minded, because those prescription medications sometimes will definitely give you the best possible outcomes for your anxious dog. And if you don't use them, sometimes you're really going to be causing unnecessary suffering for your dog. I don't go to them as my first thing. I like to try other things first. Though if I get a dog with severe anxiety, a dog that's potentially dangerous to itself and others, then medication is probably a really good idea for the safety of everyone and to reduce the suffering of the poor dog, because these animals have a tremendous amount of suffering when they are in that state of being. So the medication too, and here comes Mitzi, he's come to help. He's come to video bomb us. Hello, Mitzi. And then part 4 is monitoring. So you need to carefully track, keep a journal of how your animal responds to treatments, and revisiting your vet and the other professionals that you're working with to check in, adjust, whatever else you're doing in terms of the treatments and interventions. So that seems kind of simple, right? And it is kind of simple. The process is clear, but it can be all kinds of complicated, and you nearly always will have some backward steps and readjustments needed along the way when you're treating an anxious dog or another animal. It really does take quite a lot of devotion, dedication, and commitment to get the best outcomes for your anxious animal. Now, if you want to know more about how to help your anxious animals, please do reach out to me. I'd love to help you. And as I said, I'll be hosting the whole Dog Anxiety Summit at the beginning of September. Look out. If you're not on my mailing list, pop into Facebook and message me or comment on YouTube, or go to thehealingvet.com and use the contact form so you can get on the email list and be the first to know when tickets for that free anxiety summit become available. Okay, I'm just going to pop back to the comments and see what everyone's been saying. If you've got any questions about anxiety, please ask in the comments now. And what I'm going to do is just go through a bit. So Miso, with your 8-month-old Cavalier puppy, CBD will help, but you do need to go and find a really good positive reinforcement trainer and go to a vet. Consider medication for 6 months or 12 months to help them respond better to the behavior modification. Just going down. Is anxiety more common in some breeds? Not really, though. You can get some genetic lines within breeds that will have greater degrees of anxiety problems than other lines in breeds. And I've certainly seen that in my work, that there has been some particular genetic lines that are much more prone to having anxiety issues. And Robertina says, what about bark remedies for anxiety? Do they work? They can absolutely help. They're probably more likely to help with milder anxiety, though you'll get the odd dog with more severe or cat with more severe anxiety that will respond really nicely to rescue remedy in particular. And going to someone who's actually knows how to prescribe individualized bark flower remedies can help a lot too. Meryl says, we've got a GSP and I've met many other owners with anxiety issues also. So German GSPs are working dogs. A lot of the anxious GSPs have both not been socialized well when they're puppies and then have, don't get the activity and training that they need, because working dogs have got a lot of drive and a lot of energy. If you don't have them out training and things like that, it doesn't work so well. Okay, so it's been awesome hanging out with you all here today. I'm going to say goodbye for now. Like I said, if you enjoyed the information, you found it useful, please like the Facebook page, join the YouTube channel. And if you've got any questions for me, need some help with your anxious animal, I'd love to hear from you. Please reach out to me and say hi. Goodbye for now. We'll see you next time.